you don't know me, my name is Anthony Suarez, and I am an attorney in private practice in Orlando, Florida, formerly of New York, former president of the Puerto Rican Bar Association of New York, and formerly until recently the president of the Puerto Rican Bar Association of Florida. And now I'm going to take in a new task, and my term as president of the Bar Association terminated to start a new initiative, which I'll talk about a little bit later after our panelists have spoken. Now, our purpose here today is to try to see what the Hispanic legal community is doing to assist Puerto Ricans or Puerto Rico, and also what suggestions perhaps can we take from what is being done around the country into either Puerto Rico and give the suggestions to the plenary session which follows, so we make a combined report. And from that report, hopefully action could be taken. Now it's important, Edwin Melendez, Dr. Melendez has always made it important to add this element, the legal section, to the discussion, because most things turn around some legal sanction or legal position or legislation that is affecting everything, whether it's from social work to public policy. Something has to do with the law. And so it is appropriate that we discuss potential solutions or problems as we perceive it from a legal point of view. And so on our panel, we have members of the bars and different bar associations, and we're going to present. Well, my thought was to have them present about what they're doing with their organization as it pertains to either Puerto Rico or Puerto Ricans, and then have a question and answer period where we can start kicking around ideas how we can adapt these ideas to other locations or adapt it on a national scale. Obviously, the National Puerto Rican Agenda is trying to see if we can find some solutions that might have applicability across the nation. So then one thing to start with the person that I really don't know as well, Rogelio Carrasquillo, who is chairperson of the Hispanic National Bar Association, Puerto Rico Taskforce in New York, right?
Thank you very much. Thank you very much for inviting me here today. It's been a great pleasure to be here. My name is Rogelio Carrasquillo. I am actually the chairperson of the Hispanic National Bar Association's Puerto Rico Taskforce, which I have actually the honor of being here with the former chairperson of the Taskforce, Neysa, and various other members. But I'm an attorney here in New York. I'm originally from Puerto Rico. I was born and raised in Caguas, Puerto Rico, and I've been involved for many years in the different aspects of the legal community, both in Puerto Rico and working with the community here in Puerto Rico. The Hispanic National Bar Association, it's the national Hispanic bar that helps actually on a national basis, helps unite the different attorneys working throughout the United States through different representations of different chapters and affiliates throughout the US. So we have representatives from local people in Puerto Rico to basically all over the United States. This allows us to be able to obtain a national perspective on a lot of the things that we do with respect to Puerto Rico. In addition to that, as the HNBA, we always try to have close ties and be able to work very closely with the federal government. I'm also actually here very, very glad to be joined by Jaime Arizaga, who's actually our liaison of the HNBA with the federal government, with the White House, which I think at the end of the day, it's part of what the role of the HNBA is in general. It's really to be able to help Hispanic attorneys throughout the United States and Puerto Rico to be able to actually work on several cases, areas of importance to the Hispanic community, from dealing with issues like immigration, to business development, to growth of the Hispanic attorneys within the United States, both at the business as well as at other levels. So here comes, about being, a national organization. The HNBA was able to actually create, when we started particularly with the financial crisis in Puerto Rico, the Puerto Rico Task Force. The original purpose of this task force was to be able to follow the different events that were happening in Puerto Rico and to be able to have input in the discussion that was going on nationally. And we were able, as a task force, under the leadership of Neysa, that to be able to really develop policies and be able to create a difference as a legal community, Hispanic legal attorneys, to be able to actually affect that policy making. And then everything changed September of last year when we had Maria, when we not only were actually dealing with all the economic issues about Promesa, all the financial crisis, everything that, I mean, we as attorneys can be very helpful and key participants, but now we had a potential humanitarian crisis where we have, I mean, the whole island of Puerto Rico without power and the repercussions of that hurricane and that crisis happened. And that's where, in addition to what we were, the efforts we were doing with Promesa, we started sort of reshaping the role of the task force in expanding, in trying to work not only with the situation locally in Puerto Rico, but now how this influx of Puerto Ricans, I mean, being displaced from the island and coming to different regions here in the United States, how we could have an effect in assisting and helping in that area. So as a national organization, we've been able to, one, make this issue, and we've been having the support of the leadership of the HNBA, of making this a really top issue in the agenda of the Hispanic National Bar Association, to the point that we've been able to create a series of resolutions where, as an organization, allows us to work on the work and move policy to help in Puerto Rico in these different areas. Not only, like I mentioned, not only the issues regarding Promesa and the financial crisis, but now living in the reality. We see a role really to be able to help integrate not only with the legal community, but be able to integrate with other groups and other associations, be it like the Chamber of Commerce, I mean, non-501c3. So we've been working as a group. Like I mentioned, we have the federal aspect and the political aspect that we've been dealing with. We have the issues regarding following what's going on economically, but now we've also been able to try making that approach to serve as a liaison with all these not-for-profit organizations and these entities, which I think it will really help making sure that at the end of the day, we're all talking in one voice. I think that, I mean, our goal is we cannot be the end all be all, and we really, there's no silver bullet out there for organizations, but we're trying to be here as a tool of how we can bring the legal community and assist in helping at least in the Hispanic side in this area. So that's more or less, I mean, what we do. And I want to then leave it up to the moderator, but I mean, thank you for being here. I'm looking forward to this discussion. Thank you.
Let me ask if I'm going to take a little bit so that the question becomes relevant, you know, rather than wait till the end. And really, what is the Hispanic National Bar specifically doing, other than stuff at the task force? What specifically are they doing in order to address the question of Puerto Rico?
We're doing different things. And I think I'm going to give you one of the examples. I mean, one of the things that we do as an organization is we participate in different policy making or policy shaping events. Like, for example, our group was involved, I've been involved in Washington in several meetings with the federal government, with members of Congress, and how to do this, and how to be able to bring the issue of Puerto Rico to the forefront. I think that, I mean, one of the big problems that we find in the policy making side is that there's a lot of lack of knowledge, lack of understanding of, I mean, one, what Puerto Rico is, what our role is, and where we fall within the process. So I think that that's one of the things that we've been doing.
So that would be advocacy.
Advocacy. So we're working, I mean, we're participants in that. We're trying to make sure that, I mean, on the advocacy side, we can promote that. And we've also been trying to work with our local groups to be able to sort of organize a process where we can help not only in the advocacy and policy suggestions, but also in the aid and help to the local communities. And we've been working with the local groups in that respect.
Next person we could address is someone who I do know quite well. Neysa Alsina is current counsel of the New York City Bar Association, well recognized as one of the most influential bar associations in the country. Before that, she was involved with the Puerto Rican Bar Association, of course, the Hispanic Bar Association, and I'm sure she has quite a bit to say. So please, Neysa.
Thank you. Thanks, Tony. Good afternoon, everyone. As Tony mentioned, my name is Neysa Alsina.
My day job is counsel of the New York City Bar Association, but I am also the incoming co-chair of its Puerto Rico task force. So I'll just take a couple of minutes to tell you about the City Bar Association, what the task force has done, and some of the issues that we're contemplating internally and focusing on. So I'll take it in that order. So the New York City Bar Association is an association that was established in 1870. We have approximately 24,000 members, 160 committees, and we promote excellence in the legal profession, uphold the rule of access to justice and the rule of law. And what's great about being part of the New York City Bar Association at this time, specifically, twofold. One, our current president is John Kiernan. In October 2016, he created the Puerto Rico Task Force because of everything that was going on and the fact that so many different committees had an interest in it. So we have the Bankruptcy Committee who was interested, International Human Rights, the Inter-American Affairs Committee, and so he thought, why not get various groups of attorneys and create a task force to deal with Puerto Rico and to really follow what's going on. The City Bar, as Tony mentioned, is a really old institution, and for the first time in our history, I don't know if you know this, we're actually going to have a Puerto Rican president. So Roger Juan Maldonado will be inducted next week, and so that's something that we're very excited about. The creation of the Puerto Rico Task Force really came about because we had differences in opinions within the City Bar as to how we were going to advocate for Puerto Rico. Like you can imagine, right, some of the bankruptcy attorneys at the big firms thinking about, you know, some of their clients. You can think about some of the international human rights perspective, what some of the austerity measures were doing to the people of Puerto Rico. And so the composition of the task force is really nourished by so many different perspectives. When the hurricane happened, we realized we needed to have a bigger voice. We realized that not only should we focus more on policy and advocacy for Puerto Rico, but also we could help those efforts that were going on the island to form these legal brigades and to bring to the people who needed to register for FEMA, those who were moving here to New York who now wanted to appeal. And so we were able to partner with other legal associations here in New York, NILAC, New York Legal Assistance Group, and others, to form clinics. And those clinics, dozens of migrants who had left Puerto Rico were able to register and to appeal. Now, one of the biggest things that we're proud of is that we helped support Ayuda Legal Huracán María. And Ayuda Legal Huracán María is an organization that was it came from the Mesa del Trabajo Acceso a la Justicia. And Ariadna Godreau-Abert, who's on the island, partnered with Latino Justice, who became its fiscal sponsor, and really was able to figure out how to get to the different towns in Puerto Rico. How do, when so many people did not have a way to register for FEMA, how could they have access to even do that, right? So they were figuring out how to, like, with paper, going to the different towns and figuring out how to do that and then helping them that way. And so, with respect to the FEMA appeals clinics, we held various here, and of course we continue to support whatever Ayuda Legal Huracán María needs on the island. Now, that's some of the legal assistance we've provided. In terms of policy, some of the things that we've done. In September 27th, we also have a voice, right? So we decided, let's also write to the Department of Homeland Security and say, hey, this Jones Act waiver, you really need to extend it at least a year, right? And for those of you who don't know what the Jones Act is, right, it really restricts the shipment between two U.S. points, two U.S. points, so that everything has to be built, owned, or operated on U.S. ships. And we thought, okay, why don't we lend a voice and say, we need more time to, so that these restrictions can be lifted. And their response was, yeah, City Bar, not 1 year, we'll give you 10 days. And you saw that, and that's all that it was waived. So most recently, actually this week, we issued a more comprehensive report in which we're now calling for Congress to fully exempt it. In November of 2017, we wrote to FEMA requesting an extension of the FEMA registration, because I don't know if you knew, but they really had 60 days from when the disaster happened. Most people didn't even have electricity within the 60 days. And so we pushed to see if FEMA could extend that registration period, which they did. And now they extended it again, and it's June 2018 is when the deadline to register for individual household assistance. In January 2018, we convened a group of people at the New York City Bar Association entitled Rebuilding of Puerto Rico. And Edwin Melendez participated on the panel, as did the General Counsel over the Oversight Board, Jaime Curi, Christian Sobrino, who's the ex-official member of the governor's representative of the board. We had Annette Martinez, who is an international human rights professor. And it was moderated by Kathy Wilds, Partnership for Puerto Rico. And so it was very, it was very well attended. I came out of there with more questions than answers, but the fact that we were able to convene this type of group just speaks volumes of the voice that perhaps the New York City Bar Association can continue to lend to this conversation. In February, we wrote to HUD and said, that moratorium on the foreclosures that you have, that's, thank you for the 108 days, but, Puerto Ricans need more than that. In June, just some statistics, in June 2017, an average of 14 families were losing their home every day. In December 2017, about a third of the island's 425,000 homeowners were behind on their mortgage. So the fact that we have this wave of evictions that are upon us, we try to really see how we can lend a voice to that. Unfortunately, it's still coming. They only granted 60 days. So where do we go from here? It's interesting, again, because of the composition of the task force, we have different ideas, right? So some are saying, hey, let's lend a voice on the fact that school closures may be unconstitutional if some of the public funds and assets are going to be used to privatize. Others are saying, hey, this protest that happened on May 1st, where people have a right to peacefully assemble, let's see how we can lend a voice to whatever ACLU is going to do about it. Others are saying, hey, did you know that civil rights issues are really no longer protected right now because promesas really stays some of the damages that you could potentially get, if you're successful in civil rights violation or action. So should we draft an amicus brief with some of that? So there's just a lot to think about, a lot that lawyers can really lend their voice to, not just in helping to write amicus, but also to continue to raise awareness. And again, I think I'm very fortunate to be part of the City Bar because it is such a large institution, and the fact that with the current president, the incoming president care about these issues will continue to raise awareness. Thank you.
All right, so again, getting to trying to look what your proposal is, of course, advocacy. You also spoke about representation, and that is that they're taking actual clients, helping them with their FEMA applications, right? So they're providing services, legal services. And then you also spoke about potential seeking for opportunities for litigation where we feel that there is a violation of law, like in, for example, the question of civil rights issues. Right?
That's right.
All right. So let me introduce our next speaker, someone whom I came to know just recently when in Florida we do something that's called Puerto Rico Day, and it's a lobbying effort similar to what we do here in New York at Somos. And so we are, as we're growing, we're trying to get some political influence in Tallahassee, and I found there's a Puerto Rican in Tallahassee. And interestingly enough, I found her in her office through the Florida Bar News, which is the bar journal for all Florida lawyers. When the hurricane hit, there's a picture of her office and the tons of materials that she collected in her town of Tallahassee to send to Puerto Rico. Then she was featured in the local news, and as they went following her through her hometown, and she'll describe an excellent feature. I'm sure you can find it on YouTube. But tremendous efforts. Her and her husband David happens to be here in the audience with us. The tremendous effort they did individually, with the help, of course, of people in that community. And of course, I recruited her immediately to being a member of the Puerto Rican Bar of Florida, and she now is our lobbyist of the town. So, with no further ado, let me please introduce and please welcome Gisela Rodriguez.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Gisela Rodriguez. I practice immigration and family law in Tallahassee, Florida, but I am from Puerto Rico, and my hometown is Jayuya, which is at the center of the island. That's where my family is. That's where my heart is. My heart is everywhere, but really in the center of the island. I want to talk to you about what we've been doing, but the easiest way for me to talk is by relating personal experiences. That's sort of like the way I do it, because I don't know, it becomes easier. I don't know. Anyway, this past week, I went to a field trip with my daughter, and my husband was there as well. We went to the Kennedy Space Center. I've never been there. It was the first time. If I tell you it was one of the most extraordinary experiences I have ever had in my life, that doesn't even come close to it. It's beyond amazing. But the reason I want to start the conversation talking about that is because we spent the night at the center, okay? As you know, all the kids, but we spent the night at a place. It's huge. It's like 20 Walmarts together, 20 super Walmarts together. It's huge. It's a huge building. And in that building, they have a rocket, like a real deal. I mean, this is not a fake, I mean, it's a real rocket. It costs
Saturn rocket.
Yes, something billion dollars to build. So we spent the night there. I could not sleep. I could not sleep because I was under that thing. My mattress was literally, we were under this big rocket. The story has a point, I promise, and I'll be back. I couldn't sleep for multiple reasons. David was snoring, that was one of the reasons. But the main reason I couldn't really sleep was because I could not comprehend how the magnitude of the human talent, the human capacity to build something as extraordinary, as amazing as this thing, this rocket. So I've been thinking about that, and I've been thinking about everything that I've been thinking about since yesterday for all the classes that I've been attending here, all the sessions. And it's amazing to me because I see the rocket as all of us, you know, all of us, because it's amazing. I mean, I practice immigration law, and my heart is broken every single day that I go to the office because of the things that I'm facing, okay, the human aspect of this pain. And I come here, and it started Friday, it started yesterday, and I come to this place and I see all of you with this amazing heart, trying to figure something out, trying to figure how to help Puerto Rico, how to help, you know, the people in Puerto Rico. What can I do? What can you? And that's very humbling. But at the same time, I think, my God, what we are doing here is actually, we're trying to build this rocket. So, in other words, if that rocket was built, I slept under that thing. We can do this. There's no question in my mind that we can do this, because what we have, which is what those people, engineers and everybody that put this monumental thing that I will never forget together, what they had, it's something that we all have, and it's this love and this passion to make a difference. And that, it's all we need. That is it. Now, as far as what we are doing in Tallahassee, I'm not sure that it's legal. I mean, not legal, it is legal. But I'm not sure it is legal. It is legal. I'm not sure if it's about, you know, changing laws or, but it's about really impacting, bypassing what is broken, okay? So when the hurricane hit in September, I remember that day, I think it was a Wednesday, David had a surgery on Friday. So hurricane hit on Wednesday. David went through a surgery on Friday. I promise you this has a point. That Saturday, Friday was the hernia operation. The doctor came out of the room and he said, "Don't you let this man lift a thing. Do not let this, he has to rest." He gets up Saturday morning. He says to me, "We're gonna do a collection. We're gonna collect things. We're gonna go to Puerto Rico. We're gonna travel. We're gonna feed families. We're gonna do this." And I'm thinking, the doctor said you're not moving, okay? Anyway, that Monday, we opened the office and people from Tallahassee came like you would not believe. I have never, ever seen anything like it. To the point that we collected 6 Penske trucks, those moving trucks, the large ones. All of them were full. All of them were full. At that time in Jayuya, there was just no way to get into the town. Everything was destroyed. But we were going to go to the town. Okay? So we made it with the help of the people in Tallahassee who had no clue where Puerto Rico was before. Now they do. Okay? 2 containers, huge containers, were able to get to Jayuya. Mind you, Jayuya, center of the island, there was just no way to get in there. We got there, okay? My husband flew to Puerto Rico, to Jayuya, delivered everything to almost 2,000 families, okay? We came back and we said, what is gonna be our next mission? How are we gonna impact bypassing the mess, the legal mess? Bypassing, okay, nobody can show title to the property. Okay, you I don't know how long you've been living there, but so we said, we're gonna rebuild. We're gonna go back to Jayuya. We're gonna rebuild, period. I don't care if you have title, if you don't, you need a roof. Because as we speak right now, and every time it rains, because it was raining here in New York yesterday and it's raining today, every time it rains, all I think about, because I was there back in January, because we made an assessment as to how many houses in Jayuya are without roofs. And every time it rains, I just think, okay, we are trying to figure this out, but it's been eight months. And when it rains, there's some people that are getting, wet because they don't have a roof. So I understand, because of course I am an attorney, I understand about we need to do the regulation side and we need to try to make some changes, in the process. Absolutely, no question about it. But in the meantime, there's an urgency. There's an urgency. So we need to really address that urgency as we do what we need to do as far as making changes in the system, making changes in the law, try to influence, the legislatures and the government, whatever it takes. We need to do that too, but there's urgency. and we need to address that. So that's what we are doing. My law office, if you will, that's what we are doing. We are bypassing everything, and we're concentrating on, you need a roof, you're gonna get a roof. So maybe, maybe you'll get a title to it eventually when we get, some sort of system that can just give you a title, but that might take 10 years, and you're not gonna be, feeling the rain for 10 years. You need a roof now, you're gonna get a roof now. So that's our approach. I'm a little bit impatient, so that's why I need to just bypass and go where the problem is and try to, fix it. It might not be a permanent fix, but at least people are not going to be feeling the rain. The last thing that I want to say, my next mission is going to be empowering the people in Tallahassee. That a lot of Puerto Ricans have moved to Tallahassee, and I want the community in Tallahassee to know about the importance of voting. So that's a mission that I'm looking in my head as well. I'm going to try to do my best to make them understand that it does count when you vote. I mean, some people are saying, my vote means nothing. I'm going to try to at least do my best to change that way of thinking. And at least Tallahassee know where Puerto Rico is. Thank you.
All right, to put a name, let's call that individual efforts.
Yes.
So we have advocacy as a group, we have litigation as a group, and then you have ultimately the ultimate individual effort, leadership. I mean, we'll add that, leadership and individual effort. That's important. By the way, she is making a very big difference, and I can tell you that Tallahassee it's a small town, but when you make a big effort, as you have done, and the news report, the effect of the news that she carried, it gave Puerto Rico a lot of exposure. All right, our last speaker, well, I'm going to end doing my speaking myself, but what we're doing in Central Florida, but let me introduce you to a young lady I met, I think this last year, right? I've been very much impressed with the enthusiasm, love of what she's doing, and really attempting to try to help Puerto Rico. She's an executive director of the National Employment Lawyers Association of New York. Please welcome Roseni Plaza.
Thank you so much for having me. Thank you, Tony. And as he said, my name is Roseni Plaza, and I am the executive director for the National Employment Lawyers Association. So we're a very specialized group, and I'm not as fortunate to say all the great things that we're working on in terms of our organization. What we are doing is we are bringing awareness about Puerto Rico to a lot of people that are still unfortunately not aware of what Puerto Rico is to the United States, how the government structure of Puerto Rico exists, what is the role of Congress, even amongst lawyers. It's really sad sometimes that I get so many basic questions about Puerto Ricans and their status. As far as the work that we want to do, this is the National Employment Lawyers Association. So like I said, we really are focused on employment matters, employment discrimination, civil rights issues. So, one of the ways that I'm always thinking of how can we get together, what's happening now, what's going to happen in the next few months and years. As our people from Puerto Rico are coming into the United States, I anticipate there's going to be some employment discrimination. I anticipate that there's going to be some issues that people in my group will be able to assess. We are a national organization as well, so we have about 4,000 employment lawyers in our national group. I have met with our executive director of our national organization who wants to build some committee that will, perhaps really focus in on what is it that employment lawyers could do specifically for people in Puerto Rico. So that is something that has been in the talks for the last few weeks. I'm really excited, to be here with Tony because I know what he's going to talk to us about. And it was great to also be here with Neysa, because I want to work more with the city bar and share some of those resources in terms of really advocating for Puerto Rico. That is really, I think, the strength of our group. You know, we also do advocacy groups as well, and ways that we can really bring people together and diversify my group a little bit more. As I said, we're specialized. We don't have many Puerto Ricans in our membership, but we want to work to change that. And it's been one of my personal missions since I've been the executive director to diversify the membership. So last year we did develop a diversity DEI committee, and you know, we had a big conference, which is why sadly I wasn't here yesterday. And I was proud to say that I saw brown faces in my group, which is a really big deal for us. When I first came, I was seeing maybe 1 or 2, and yesterday I think I could count at least 20. So that's a big deal for us, and I'm also here to learn about more ways that our members work with the Puerto Rico Taskforce and other bar associations, and looking for more ways to coordinate with other efforts, especially on a national level. We're very aware that Florida is a place where we need to, you know, zone in on, and it's a place where we're willing to put some resources. So without further ado, here's Tony Suarez.
Remember, everything we're saying, we're being recorded, and so we have to report. So I'm going to try to put a spin on what you're saying, that we have to diversify the groups who are non-Hispanics, and we have to educate those groups that are non-Puerto Rican groups as to the need and necessity of the Puerto Rican community, both in mainland and in Puerto Rico. Right? All right, then let me turn to a topic that I do know a lot about, and this is what we're doing in Florida. And particularly, well, I would say the entire state of Florida, not just Florida. We have tried, since the time I took office, I am no longer president. We have a new president, Marie Masson, a wonderful young woman who's extremely articulate and will be doing great things in the coming years. But in the 4 years that I was president, I wanted to ensure that some of these things happened even before Maria. So among the things that we did, in order to bring education to the outside groups that didn't know what was going on in Puerto Rico, we did a national, literally a national moot court competition, over 15 law schools around the country. We had competition in Chicago, New York, Miami, and then ultimately the finals in Orlando. We flew in teams from around the country, teams of students that come in argue issue, and every year the issue was about Puerto Rico and the Equal Protection Clause. It always had something to do with how unequal the treatment of Puerto Rico and Puerto Ricans is to vis-a-vis. So the attempt to educate. We didn't want Puerto Rican students. If you brought them, fine, but we would really wanted to educate and start having a cadre of lawyers that were going out there to the mainstream to realize it as they looked at the issues, they realized, wow, how is it that 2 soldiers, well, the first year's example, 2 soldiers in the same foxhole in Europe, one can vote and one cannot vote. And because the New York, in that case, was a New York Puerto Rican, he could vote absentee ballot out of a foxhole in Afghanistan, but the Puerto Rican cannot. Then the issue was, how can you justify this under the Equal Protection Clause? Then we had a question of capital punishment. We had the question, different questions, but the point is having consciousness of the issue. So by using the moot court, and we had judges flying in, we had law firms flying in, law schools rather, and law students coming, and the competition was genuine. This was one of the efforts we try to bring attention. Puerto Rican Bar Association also of Florida also holds what we call a political salsa. It is a hobnob where we have candidates bring candidates for whatever office that are being known locally, and put a table with the literature, and we bring the Puerto Rican community to them. Highly successful. Last year, we almost got thrown out of the police. We had from the place we had over 420 people voted. I don't know how many people were there, because that was 400 people, 20 who voted in the mock voting, the mock election, and it was a money maker for the bar. We made money from the bar, but the consciousness of it. Now this is our 3rd year that we had done it. It's now become the premier event to reach the Puerto Rican community in Central Florida. And so that was a very successful event for bringing consciousness of the community. This year it'll be in August 16th. I don't know what's going to happen. I'm literally thinking of adding an outside tent because what happened last year, we almost had the police on us. I don't know what's going to happen this year. And then by 2020, there'll be presidents of the United States coming to our event this year. So those are among the things. And then, of course, among the other things, what happened, it was a hurricane. When the hurricane happened, I was president at that time, and I said, I know there are going to be a lot of people doing individual efforts, and there were certainly lots of individual efforts. And in Orlando, God, we had this huge building. It's got about 50,000 square foot, and we filled it with stuff from people from all over the place. But I think, I would like to see what lawyers could do other than that, because I know there was going to be a lot of people doing that. So I remembered what happened when Hurricane, that's when it went through New Orleans. Katrina. Whenever Katrina hit New Orleans, how it wiped out Tulane University's law school. And the students lost almost a year before they can get back. I said this was going to happen in Puerto Rico. And sure enough, it did. All law schools closed. But we got on the horn, started making phone calls. Eventually, we were able to get 32 students out of the University of Puerto Rico into mainland schools here in the United States. Some came to New York, some of course Florida State University, some went to Buffalo, some went to Pennsylvania. But 32 students were saved their year of education without having to spend an additional dollar in tuition. All tuition was waived for them. Some of them, those that stayed in Florida, we paid for their housing, and we also got some of the guys that went up to Buffalo, we paid for their transportation. That's 32 lives that were affected by the Bar Association action in that particular case. We call that the STAR program, the Student Temporary Assistance Relocation Program. Well, what happened from there was that the word got around in the island that we were helping the lawyers. That wasn't true because we were just helping the students. But we started getting phone calls from lawyers. Oh, you're helping lawyers. I need a job. I gotta leave Puerto Rico. So I started searching the research to, what we could do, because I knew reciprocity was going to be off the table. I would never get that past the state legislature. So we thought up another thing, because it turns out that there's a Florida rule of practice that allows for a certified legal services clinic that serves the poor, the indigent, can use lawyers from out of state. And they can practice in the state while they're prepped for the bar in the future. With that, saying, oh my goodness, I can kill two birds with one stone. So what we did is we did in fact incorporate and get certified by the Florida Supreme Court, a copy of which I brought with me for those of you who are interested in seeing. But we got our not-for-profit organization certified, and now we're in the process of certifying 15 lawyers that came from the island. For Central Florida, we have 3 or 4 more in South Florida and Miami. We have offices in Miami and in South Florida. I didn't stop because I got to pay for all this. So we started lobbying. And this is where Gisela became important for me, because otherwise I would be, meeting in the streets over there. But we were successful in lobbying and getting grants now totaling $950,000, nearly $1 million that I have now coming to me in promises. I don't have it yet, but in the meantime, we are operating. And we are operating, and we're taking cases from indigent persons from Florida. And we will then take, once I have the funding, then I'll be able to hire Florida-based lawyers to supervise the work of the Puerto Rico-based lawyers until they get admitted to the bar. And we will be providing the type of services such as housing, FEMA administration, divorces, domestic violence, misdemeanors, work that these people from the island will just not be able to afford at a regular law firm. And so this is, I think, very significant work, both at the local level and the state level. What I'm going to propose as part of our panel suggestion is that now that we have a concerted effort doing a national agenda, then why not use our political clout to see if we can get some money out of the national government to expand the concept into every other city where we have significant number of Puerto Ricans. And of course, we don't have only Puerto Ricans, but that would be unconstitutional. But we have specifically included the name. The name of the organization is called the Legal Services Clinic of the Puerto Rican Bar Association. Okay, because we wanted to have that emphasis, just like the Legal Aid Society of the Orange County Bar. It gives prestige to the Orange County Bar for what they're doing, and I wanted to ensure that the Puerto Rican Bar Association had institutional standing, and we would not be clouded by because this is all a question of funding. You realize that. Well, one of the things we discussed in the early session about having a Boricua vote versus Mi Familia vote. Well, Mi Familia vote is the same thing that Boricua vote. The difference is who's got the funding. Who gets the funding? So if you want to go after funding, you have to use your political clout, and you have to identify with the group, so that therefore that's the group that has to be attended to. So with that I think we've had a very active activity. We are, of course, concentrating mostly in Miami and in Orlando, although there are lots of Puerto Ricans in Tampa, and there's a couple up there in Tallahassee too. So with that, I have closed my presentation and like to take questions from the audience. Yes, ma'am.
So thank you for all that you have done. Pretty remarkable, and I have to agree. There's been a lot of individual efforts throughout the country. My question is one of concern that June 30th is around the corner, and there are going to be hundreds of thousands of new arrivals, displaced hurricane victims throughout the United States and also on the island that are no longer going to be eligible for TSA. TSA ends. And a while back when FEMA had said that there wasn't going to be an extension back in February, right? That was the threat in February, that it wasn't going to be extended anymore. I consulted some friends, because I have a legal background, to see if there could be a lawsuit formed on FEMA for displacing, especially families, elders, and those most vulnerable. We all have to agree, many people came from Puerto Rico with lots of illnesses. I have 3 clients stage 4 cancer. I have children that probably won't see the summer come. And so they're within that mix that are going to be displaced. And I am wondering, is there any kind of legal standing to be able to force FEMA? And I understand that it has to come from Governor Rogelio as the request, but now that he's been clear, he's not asking for any more extensions. And FEMA is being clear with us as providers, as organizations that have been in this work, not to ask for any more extensions. We don't have the authority to ask for an extension, only Rogelio to FEMA. What is your opinion on that? Thoughts on it? Is anybody doing anything about that? Can anything be done about that?
All right, panel, anybody have a response to that?
TSA is temporary sheltering assignment under a FEMA resource.
You have an answer, right?
Yeah. So not going after FEMA. I'm sorry. My name is Will Gonzalez, past president of the Hispanic Bar Association of Pennsylvania, very active on the board, very active in Philadelphia with long-term recovery. Obviously, to go after FEMA, that's a whole different animal. What we did was to look at regulations of our housing authorities in Philadelphia and on HUD. And we discovered that the Philadelphia Housing Authority had something called the super preference for people displaced by a presidentially declared disaster that puts them on top of any list that they have. So we also found out that there's these HUD regulations regarding some mortgage products that were issued in the 80s and 90s for building of affordable housing that also puts them on the top of the list. The challenge is that the turnover rate of getting spots open is limited. That said, last conversations that we had with Philadelphia Housing Authority is that they're talking about maybe 40 or 50 of them a month. So that is good. And in Philadelphia, we have 21 people who are facing the TSA not TSA are also looking for help. So what I would ask is that the legal community do more coordination with our friends who are experts with HUD matters and housing matters. I'm not on that. But I push some of my colleagues, and we have community legal services, we have local legal assistants, to look into it, and also some of the national resources that we became aware of these things. That's what I would encourage you to do, to see if there's any such preferences in your
There are preferences. The thing is that, as I stated yesterday, at the national level, this country has not done well in building, renovating, re-engineering decent affordable housing. So in Massachusetts alone, and I know in Florida, I can't even imagine the pain that you all are going to go through, because in Massachusetts, we will have about 2,000 families out on the street on the evening of, or should I say, how do they say? It's 10 o'clock, June 30th. That's the deadline. So if we're in pain, you're going to be in agony. And if I remember correctly, your governor had said that there was, I don't know, I want to say it was about 8,000 families in the hotels, and I don't know if it was just in one region, and he only had 210 available priority units for them. And we've talked about a lot of things going on the island during this summit. My anxiety are many, but that June 30th deadline is going to impact every single state and the island, putting people on the street.
We have, I can tell you that we have been paying attention to that. Particular State Senator Victor Torres from Orlando has been working on that, but that's a federal issue. And so there's very little he can do. And Darren Soto, who's our only and first Puerto Rican legislator to Congress from Central Florida, he's been working the issue as well. But, he's also limited. He's one voice, and he's in the minority. So, to try to do affordable housing in Florida is nearly mission impossible. This past year, the state legislature raided the down payment assistance program funding, which was in the million. They took it out. Actually, they used it at least for education, but it raided the money. There's a tax on every closing in real estate transaction in Florida, which it goes to the down payment assistance program, housing program. And I think it was about $40 million or so they took out of it to use it for something else, creating this problem. Now, there's solutions like relaxing building codes, relaxing code. For example, in Central Florida, they tightened the code because of hurricanes. They tightened the code on mobile homes. So when you do that, it makes it more difficult to provide the mobile home because you have to tax it, you have to put a basement, you have to do all this other stuff in order to make it more stable. But by doing that, you restrict it, and you can't put as many people, you can't build them as fast and very quick. So some of the discussions out there are about whether or not we can waive some of these construction fees. We have an impact, we call an impact fee as well. When you build any new structure, there's an impact fee that the developer has to put in order to pay for the roads and additional services. But if you waive the impact fees, push the problem into the future, that is the building of the roads, we'll worry about it later. Right now we have a problem, we need to have housing, so waive the fee so the housing can be built at a affordable price is among the solutions that are being kicked around to try to deal with the problem. But it's very complex because every county has rules, the cities have rules. Some cities are NIMBY cities, not in my backyard city. They don't want anything built for poor people around them. And then it becomes a very difficult, so it's tricky. Yeah.
I just want to add that I don't know what came out of the meeting because I didn't attend, but I know that the New York Public Advocate Letitia James did convene people a few weeks ago to try to figure out how to deal with this issue, which is huge, it's going to impact New York City. I do know and I understand that this is the extension was granted. Now you want an additional extension, but Governor Rogelio did request the initial extension. Personally, I represent FEMA clients who are living in homeless shelters, who have been living in homeless shelters since October. And, I hate to say it, but in a way, they're more secure in a homeless shelter than in a motel that they could be kicked out soon.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's definitely a big problem, and I know Latino Justice Pro is working on that issue, so I can play that forward.
What's the name?
Latino Justice Pro, they may have additional information. I do know that Natasha Bannon attended that meeting with public advocate Natasha James.
Any other questions? Yes.
Yes, I'm glad that we're all here. I'm very proud of you. But one of the questions I have, if possible, is regarding the issues of property in Puerto Rico. Is there any, direction or input that there's family members in the Puerto Ricans who are in the United States, but are in Puerto Rico, there's a property, and that property is not in conditions or was, affected as to what could be done, and especially when you're dealing with PETA or FEMA, and it's a green, they're doing green, right? So green and all that. What could be done in a situation like that? Question of property where you have to make a decision, because it's very difficult in Puerto Rico prior to this crisis. Very difficult with property. We have family regardless. With the family, and it's been old, and nobody's doing anything about the house. What could be done regarding the issues of property after this crisis?
Because we were just discussing that issue a couple of minutes ago. Because in Puerto Rico, there are lots of homesteads. The land that is not owned by the people, and people they just squatted on it. They started building homes. This is widespread throughout the land. So they don't have the deed to the land. Without the deed, they can't get a FEMA grant. And they're just out. You have a quick answer?
Yeah, what HUD is doing now, right on the table, is that if the local mayor who vouched that the guy has been living there, they can then give him some kind of deed that they can get money from. But FEMA is only going to be there for a short period of time. HUD is going to stay there for 5 or 6 years. So the best way to try to get new housing, which is crazy, takes you a long time to build a new house, is through HUD. And HUD is now being very flexible on the idea of who owns the property. Because what they found out was that Lao's cousin moved into the backyard and built the house back there. So the uncle owns the property, and he's allowed his cousin to own that house, and that's the house that they say you don't have to do.
Yeah.
So now they're being a little bit flexible on that quietly, though, until they can't do it. It's one of those things that the Republicans do. You'll apologize later. So they're taking care of business, and then they're apologizing later after the business is built. But one of the things I about the rules in Puerto Rico, it should all be solar rules, like they're doing in California. I mean, it just doesn't make sense not to do that. But the problem is PREPA. As long as they're trying to prop up PREPA, they're not allowing people to do solar or wind. So, in my opinion, PREPA has to be killed or let die, which is what Roseni is doing quietly, I think. But also the other big problem, the macro problem in Puerto Rico is drones. And unless we can figure out a way to kill drones, and I like some.
Okay, this is let me hold you here. This is the reason why we have that the board had determined that we are not that this program. So what we're doing is not for the diaspora. Because the minute we get involved in Puerto Rican issues, it's this, it's that, and no, que prepa, que no hay independencia, y de todo, es, it gets very complicated, and we can't get into that. First, we really cannot solve it.
This is not a political problem. Whether you have wave the black Puerto Rican flag, the light blue one, and the dark blue one, everybody's in accord that Jones got to go. The other thing that got to go is the debt. I don't know what they can do down there about Jones. But I know we here, the Diaspora, can certainly advocate at the Congress level. There's Puerto Ricans in every state in America. We should be able to walk into the Congressman's office and say, what are you going to do about Puerto Rico? And unless you ask that question of them, they're not even going to think about doing anything. So it's much more powerful for one who lives next door to the Congressman's office to walk into his office and say, what are you going to do about Puerto Rico, than it is for me to go and send them a letter. But we should organize Puerto Ricans in every state saying, just go to your office and say this. Kill Jones, kill the debt. Those two things.
Right. Any other questions? We only have about 5 minutes left. Yes, sir.
Is the board, is it too late for past law school to do more to help the program that you described?
Moot court program?
No, not the Moot court program, the helping the law students, et cetera. I
Oh.
just wanted to know, I mean,
Yeah, that program was temporary because of the hurricane. So it won't go again. Now, what we're gonna try to do with the legal clinic, on the Florida rules, I'm not sure this is applicable everywhere else, but the Florida rules, I can also take law students to work at the clinic. So where University of Puerto Rico and, La Católica and Interamericana, they used to have internship programs, but those internship programs are severely affected by the lack of now opportunities to intern. So we're gonna offer internships in Florida for the schools in Puerto Rico. So that will somewhat help. So if New York, for example, New York Law School, or there's a similar law rule in New York that allows them to intern over here, then we can do that. Get the law students some internship program until they take the bar. Good. Good.
Well, Jaime Neysa, I'm a member of the Hispanic National Bar Association, Army Jack, myself. I think to the panel, I would say a couple of things. One is, when you mentioned the initiative that you've done so well in Puerto, my concern of doing it national is that this is a matter that's regulated state by state. So as I look at licensure for military spouses, I'm always dealing with my civilian job. I see the same issue. So it's great that Florida has it. I don't know how many other states would allow that to happen. So that would be the challenge of ramping it up across state lines. I think, sir, you were asking about the Jones Act. The New York City Bar just issued a whole opinion or newsletter or press release on the Jones Act. You were talking about organizing the community. I think this morning there was Boricua. That's exactly what Boricua is doing. It's organizing the community at the 435 congressional districts. And to you, ma'am, I think that the challenge is so many of these legal issues are legal issues of the Puerto Rico legal system that even though I've been in 4 states, I cannot help it because as long as the Puerto Rico legislature doesn't change the bureaucratic real property, sucesiones, why don't you inherit even 1 square foot or even $1,000? If you waste 3 years to get the $1,000 from an inheritance, sucesiones reales, as they call it in Puerto Rico. And I don't know, Rogelio, if you know more about this, but what I would say is a lot of those issues are run locally, and unfortunately, we neither have a local bar nor do we have local influence. And it's a diaspora movement. We were talking about it with Mr. Suarez about the challenges of those issues. They're very important challenges, but unfortunately, it's hard for us to solve it for them.
Wait, because I got one last question, 1 minute, and he answered. So go ahead. Go ask your question.
Help Save Puerto Rico initiative. We're in this for the long haul.
Yeah.
And I think that the gentleman here, basically my question was, it's been answered, which one of the lawyers on the panel specializes in the 1920 Merchant Act and the Jones Act, and also with the bankruptcy. As you all know, 1984, the United States Congress underhandedly and the private justification took Puerto Rico out of being able to access the bankruptcy. I'll say to the lawyers here and to what I said to the elected officials yesterday, the United States is not going to give us bankruptcy or waive the thing just because we asked. Okay, we need to mobilize the bottom up. And I know Janice from Boricua activity, they have a cadre of attorneys in Washington fighting for all that investment dollars, and we need a cadre of trained lobbyists on our part in there doing their thing, and we need the Puerto Rican people organized, mobilized, the youth movement, the women movement, etc., letting the Congress know that we're not going to put up with this. well-organized, national public relations campaign state by state. Let me explain what I mean very quickly.
We got 1 minute, please.
Basically, what that means is this, that each state organizes and does their thing at a national level. And then you go from state to state so that we have national attention, but we have each state doing that. So this way we don't get exhausted and we can go the long distance. We need to educate the people. We need to win public opinion on our side. And I am convinced that if we do that, that we'll get some results, because this, my friend, is a fight that we can win.
Thank you. All right,
And
I think that was a statement.
I'm sorry, Mr.
Oh, yeah.
Suarez. That's mission number 2 for us. Okay, so count on that.
Thank you.
All right, thank you very much. Thank you for attending.
That's it.